walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay, Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you on a Monday morning?
Marvelous Monday, ready to go, talking about sports on the morning show. Let's get it.
Mo, we're going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles. A report came out from The Athletic over the weekend that the relationship between head coach Nick Sirianni and starting quarterback Jalen Hurts is considered to be a work in progress at best. Apparently, Jalen is very reserved, and we all know Coach Sirianni is not.
Right.
And apparently Coach Sirianni rubs Jalen Hurts the wrong way because of his personality. And as a result, there is just a, quote, natural disconnect between the two of them. Mo, Sirianni better fix this, because I'll tell you right now, Jalen Hurts will be the starting quarterback for this team next season. Nick Sirianni might not be the head coach for this team after week 3. Depending on how this season begins for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I don't care what your personality is, but you better figure out, or you fake it until you make it. Start talking quieter around Jalen. Don't talk at all around Jalen. Hire an assistant whose job is to communicate between you and Jalen.
Go between.
Like, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to have a relationship with your quarterback. Mo, I can talk a little firsthand about this. I lived through this Tua's first year in the league. His head coach just didn't like him. And we all saw how that went down in Miami. The quarterback and the head coach is the most important relationship on the team. Hands down, no question about it. Nick better figure this out.
He better. Look, you don't need to look any further than the wise words of the NFL genius, marry the quarterback to the coach, right? They have to be in sync. They don't have to be best friends or buddies, but they have to be in sync on the mission at hand. And I would say when you're the head coach of an NFL team, the great ones are more of overseers. They allow their assistant coaches to interact more with the players. If Nick Sirianni is the kind of guy that we've been told he is, who seems a little bit loud, over the top, maybe even handsy, maybe the guy that's constantly patting people on the back or just trying to jump in and make it a party atmosphere or whatever the case may be, and Hurts is the complete opposite of that, you need to stay away from him. You need to stay away from him. Give him his space. Let him connect to his OC. That's the guy that Jalen Hurts needs to have a great relationship with, his OC. Nick Sirianni needs to be the head coach of the Eagles and be the overseer, but step away. Like you said, if this doesn't work out, if the Eagles have a subpar season, I still think Jalen Hurts will be the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, but Nick Sirianni, he'll be looking for a job. So, again, to make this relationship work, step away. Give him some space. I like your idea better. Get a go-between. Get a go-between and go, hey, this is just from Coach Sirianni, just seeing how things are doing. Are you okay? Do you need anything? And Jalen will probably say, like, no, I'm good, man. And then he'll go back, no, he's good. And, all right, roger that. And we move on, rather than clearly Jalen Hurts is like, this guy's way too much into my space. and we need a break from each other. Or it's bad when you need a break and you're in training camp. like you're in training camp and you need a break from this guy. That's not a good sign. So yes, Nick Sirianni, find a way to give Jalen Hurts his a break from you, because I've seen Sirianni on the sidelines. He's a lot, Chris. You know,
he's a lot. He's a lot.
He is a lot. He's almost like a wrestling character. He's that much of a personality. And if Hurts is the kind of guy that's more reserved, that's fire and ice. It just doesn't work. But he is your franchise quarterback. You have to make this work.
And Nick Sirianni needs to make it work, because Jalen Hurts doesn't have to.
No.
Jalen Hurts is going to be here for a minute. Like, as long as if Jalen Hurts plays a little bit better than he played last season, he doesn't have to play as well as he did 2 years ago. But if he just plays better than he played last season and he settles down in the middle between 2 years ago and last season, he's the quarterback for the entire contract. He is here for the next handful of years. So he's good. He don't got to bend his will to the head coach. If it's a situation where Sirianni walks in the room and Jalen just like cringes internally and is like, I'll catch you guys later. Like, because that's what I see happening. I see Sirianni coming in the room all loud and obnoxious, and Jalen's just like, all right, guys, we'll catch up after. We'll meet up later on. Like, he just quietly just like
fades
finds the exit.
Right. Because Sirianni is probably the kind of guy, Chris, who comes in there and he's like Dice Clay.
Right, you know he's coming.
Right. And you can hear him down the hallway before he gets to you, and you're already like, is there a back door?
Right.
Another way I can get out of here? It's a lot. And if you're not that kind of guy, and if you're quiet about your business and you just want to go about your business and don't want to engage like that, that can be annoying if you're somebody on the kickoff team or the kick return team. But if you're the franchise quarterback, he has zeroed in on you as the guy. And maybe he's going out of his way to try to create a relationship. And Jalen Hurts is probably like, no, we're good. We're good where we're at right now. We don't need to get any closer or spend extra time with each other. I kind of like it the way it is. You show up, I disappear. That works.
I'm telling you, Mo, if the Eagles start off 0-3, I think they fire Sirianni.
That quick? Wow, that's a quick
If
look.
they start off 0-3, because you basically have two head coaches on his staff. You have an offensive coordinator who should have been a head coach by now.
Facts.
And you have a defensive coordinator who has been a good head coach.
Agreed.
So if this gets sideways the first month of the season and you're still hearing about his relationship with Hurts and you're still hearing about disconnect in the locker room and all that stuff as a narrative, I don't think they're going to play it out for 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks to see if they can get it back on the tracks and potentially risk the entire season. I think they move quick. I mean, we've heard from Gene. They were going to fire him at the end of last season.
True.
And he basically talked himself into keeping his job. They fired his entire staff at the end of last season. Like, I can't imagine they have a long leash on him if he starts off 0-3 or 1-3 this season.
You bring up a great point. He has two head coaches on his staff. And I don't think the second hire was an accident. I think that was done as a contingency plan, if you will, if things do go sideways. And like you said, we heard it from the NFL Genius. They were going to get rid of this guy. He basically had to turn around and reapply for his own job.
Right.
And re-interview, and somehow he convinced them, and they're like, we'll get back to you by the afternoon. And they're like, you know what? We're going to bring you back. We're going to bring you back. Like that. That's not one of those, this is our guy going forward. That's one of those, you have this season to audition, right, to keep your job. So I'm with you. I just thought 3 games could be too quick. But then again, in the NFL, because you only have so many games in a season, every game matters, especially within the division. That's very possible. I don't think they're – look, I think he's the best GM in football. I don't think Howie's going to let something like that linger, so I agree with you.
Oh, Howie is definitely not going to let something like that linger. You want to talk about their first handful of games? Let's see what they got here. They got the Packers. That's in Brazil, or I don't know where that game is. That game's somewhere foreign. They got the Packers to open the season, and then they go Falcons, Saints, Buccaneers. if they are 1-3 coming out of that 4-game stretch to open the season, there's no way. There's no way. You got the Falcons and the Saints in there.
And those should be W's.
Right.
Those should be W's.
Worst case scenario, this team should be 2-2. And I think they're going to split the Packers and Bucks. I think they should be 3-1. I have them 3-1 coming out of the first 4 games. So if they're 1-3 or 0-4, I think Sirianni's gone.
Sirianni's gone, and like we've already alluded to, they've already got a contingency plan in place. It's just a matter of who they select. My guess is because it would be an easier transition, the OC would be bumped up to head coach because he has the most important relationship with Jalen Hurts.
Correct. All right, let's get JG on the show. It's funny, Mo, because the last couple of weeks, you and I have been bouncing back and forth between our nature settings, and it looks like today JG has a nature setting.
3 for 3.
We're turning into the nature show over here on the morning show.
Well, a little different for me. Everybody's still sleeping in the apartment at the moment, so I'm going to make sure that I don't make too much noise for them. So why not enjoy a little bit of patio time this morning?
JG, great to see you here. JG, when you break down the baseball season, where does the next few weeks rank for you in the scope of an entire? Obviously, playoff baseball is number 1, but the next few weeks, the trade deadline weeks, this is some exciting stuff coming up in Major League Baseball.
It definitely is, especially this year because there's so many teams that are still competitive. There's still many teams that are in the hunt. So that makes things a little bit, as a lot of the experts are going on ESPN and MLB Network, it's going to be a wild trade deadline because, and if you're a team that is selling, you're kind of excited because there's going to be a lot of bidding wars going on for players that you're looking to unload. So because there's so many teams, and I think in the All-Star game, they said, John Smoltz said 11 National League teams are still in contention within 3 to 5 games, which is a record for a league. That does show there's going to be some teams that are going to be making moves, and you'll have some of the bottom level teams in that contention that are probably just like, hey, we're here, and that's great. We weren't expecting it. More likely we'll stand pat, but for the other teams that are competing right now, this is exciting because you're going to have a chance to get a player. You're going to have opportunities to bring in help, but at the same time, it's going to increase the bidding war. It's going to be an exciting trade deadline because so many teams are looking for players, and you're going to be, and like I said, if you're a bottom dweller team unloading, you're excited because that means the price is going to go up based off of how many teams are interested in so many players. So the trade deadline for any sport is always a fun time. And just because there's so much news going on and rapid rumors and whatnot. So, but this year, because so many teams are going to be active in the deadline, makes it even more enticing and more exciting.
Let's take a look at some of the current rumors going into today. We're going to start with the Reds. The Reds have come out and basically said anyone who's on an expiring deal, we're open to talk about it. And the first 2 names that have popped up are Frankie Montas and Nick Martinez. Apparently, the Baltimore Orioles are interested in both or one, depending on how things shake out. What do you think the value is of both of those players? As a Yankee fan, I've seen Frankie Montas. He was a classic, come to New York, can't pitch in the pinstripes, and then he moved on. He's done okay since he's left New York. He hasn't been the ace that everyone kind of thought he was coming out of Oakland. But I think he's got some value there. What do you think of Montas and Martinez as the Reds are looking to move some of their expiring contracts?
I mean, Montas was not going to be a mainstay in Cincinnati. Again, as you said, you got to watch him firsthand on how he pitched in New York, and he's been, as he left Oakland, it's just been very average to mostly below average. 4.85 ERA, 1.36 WHIP with a 4-8 record right now. Not great numbers that make you really sit there and say, we need to make sure we get this guy at the deadline. He's one of those where if you're unable to get one of the top level guys, and you know that he can be an innings eater for you and help out to stretch out your rotation, then you can be able to get him. I don't think there's going to be a big asking price for Montas, just because, again, the numbers don't really entice you to do so. And his career has been that way. He's not been one of those exciting pitchers that you're like, man, we got to have this guy. He's a filler. So for the Reds to look to unload him, it's more of just opening up space for your young pitchers in your farm and see what you have there. That's what they've done over the last couple of years, is just really let the young guys kind of come up. I think that's more of a move to do so, and just going to unload Frankie Montas. If I'm, like I said, the Orioles, if I'm the Orioles, I'm going to make sure that Montas is on my list, but he's very low on my list if I can't get any of the top guys that are available at the deadline. But for same with Nick Martinez. Martinez has pitched well this year, but at the same time, again, there's other pitchers that are out there that have done better, that have done more, that you can really get. And I think it's going to cost a little bit more to get those guys. But if you're looking for a bullpen arm, a filler out there, that would be a good acquisition to get if you're a contending team, just to help space out your bullpen more.
Yankees and the Red Sox are both apparently interested in Jameson Taillon. Yankee fans are familiar with Jameson. He has been in the Bronx before. What would the asking price be potentially for Chicago for a pitcher like Jameson? Obviously not a top tier pitcher, but definitely a guy that is capable, and definitely a guy that can take over middle of the rotation, back of the rotation duties for a team that is trying to make a push in the second half of the season.
Well, a little different for Taillon because than what I just said about Montas is Taillon has good numbers. He's pitched well throughout the season. He's been a little bit up and down, but for the Chicago Cubs team that has dealt with underperformance, some injuries to the rotation, Taillon has helped in kind of keeping them afloat for a while. I know they're at the bottom of the division now, but for a good portion of the early part of the year, Taillon was one of the consistent pitchers with Shota Imanaga that kind of helped the Cubs be, like I said, around the top part of the division. 7.4 record, 3.10 ERA with a 1.16 whip. Those are good numbers, and I think that's going to be enticing to a team that looks for a rotation help for a number 3 or number 4 rotation piece. And I think right now he's having to be a 3, sometimes a 2, just because of injuries in Chicago. You go bring him in and say, hey, well, you're going to be a number 4 pitcher. That's a good thing for a contending team. It won't cost too much. Again, this is where if you're the Cubs, you're hoping for a bidding war, because there's teams that are just looking for arms, and everybody's looking for arms to get it, that you can get maybe 3 to 4 prospects for Taillon. But I think it's more of, if you get 3, two good level prospects, 2 AA, top, maybe 1 top 10, a top 12 with a filler. If you get 3, if you can get that 3rd prospect. But again, a top 10 and maybe a top 15, top 20 prospects, more in line for what you get with Taillon.
Looking at the Blue Jays, I don't know what to make of Toronto right now. So we've heard the big names out there, then the big names weren't out there. And now over the weekend, we're finding that Toronto really isn't anywhere near an extension with Vlad Guerrero Jr. They don't even really have a framework in place or know what an extension is going to look like. And then we find out that they're exploring trades for people who are under contract beyond this year, which could be some of their bigger pieces. Obviously, listening to offers and accepting offers are 2 different things. JG, do they just not have a plan in Toronto? Are they hoping that they're just presented with something they can't say no to, and that's going to kind of shift what their plan is? Because they don't seem to really know what they want to do. They're only 9 games under 500, but they've been in the basement for the majority of the season in the AL East. I think it might be unrealistic to call them a wild card contender team, because I don't know if they're going to be able to put that kind of a run together in the second half of the season. What do you think Toronto's going to do?
Well, the interesting part is we always poke fun at the New York Mets for not having a plan and what they were wanting to do. They've been back and forth. We're going to sell. We're going to buy. We're going to sell. We're going to buy. We're going to hold pat. We're going to sell. We're going to buy. We're going to stay where we're. Toronto's the American League version of the Mets, where they don't know what they want to do. Do they want to sell off? Do they want to just blow it up and rebuild? There has been, murmurs over the offseason that was going to be the case, where if they don't win in 24, they were going to blow this team up and start over. And I think that's where they're at right now, is essentially stuck between a rock and a hard place. Where do we go? We have young pieces, but we haven't been able to get the right pieces around them to be competitive. Well, the problem is your young pieces that are exciting and talented, that you have some decent core pieces around, well, that's in the lineup. They don't have that in the pitching rotation. They have not been able to get the right arms to help be competitive. That's the front office problem. Again, you're talking about, some of the most exciting players in Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. You've made decent pieces, acquiring George Springer. You had Kevin Biggio, who played well for a while before you traded him or you unloaded him to LA. But the pitching staff is where they failed miserably over the last few years. And so now they look at it and goes, well, do we want to go and spend the money to keep Guerrero Jr. or try to blow up, bring in younger pieces that are a little bit cheaper, maybe use money to go get pitchers? That's where they don't know what they're wanting to do right now. I think at this point, they're going to need to blow it up. If they don't do it at the deadline, it will be done this offseason because they have gone backwards. This was a team for years. We've been saying that they were going to be the team that challenges the top of the American League East. They were going to be the team because they had the right pieces to challenge and beat the Yankees. They had the offense to do it. They just never had the pitching. And now they've let the Orioles be the team that can beat the Yankees. They have been passed up. Oh, by the way, the Red Sox, who have fallen back for the last few years, they're now turning the corner to get back to being, a little bit more talked about in the East. And so they've let them fall off. The only good thing for the Blue Jays is that the Rays completely sold off, did their annual 5-year sell-off, and now they're kind of the bottom of the division with the Blue Jays. So they're going to have to make a decision. I don't know if they're really ready to do that now at the deadline, but I think it should and will happen this offseason going into 2025.
Speaking of the Rays, if they got them, you might be able to get them. Randy Arozarena, Yandy Diaz, Isaac Paredes, basically everyone is potentially on the table for the Rays. What is their plan, JG? Is it just going to be take all the guys that are in their late 20s, early 30s, get what you can for them prospect-wise, and just start over, and hopefully in 3 years, we're back?
I hate saying it. I like Tampa Bay. I like the Rays. I like their story. I like what they have, their history over the last decade, being the small team that competes. What I'm afraid of now is they're going to be the Oakland A's of the East. Because what did they just do recently? Well, they just announced their new stadium and the cost of their new stadium and what's going to be. Well, we've seen teams. What do they do? Again, Texas Rangers out here in Dallas-Fort Worth, where I'm at right now. Texas Rangers, when they announced their new stadium, what did they do? They sold off. They completely gutted their payroll. Oakland A's. Oakland never had really a payroll anyway, but they found ways to cut their payroll even more. So I think LSU baseball probably has more money and made more money than the Oakland A's did over the last couple of years. I digress. When you have a new stadium being talked about and finalized and it's going to be starting to be built, they're going to find ways to cut payroll to make it a little bit more valuable for the franchise. So that way, when they move into the stadium, they have a lot more money because it's a shiny new toy. People are going to want to come see it. Texas, and using the Rangers as the example, they cut payroll. They didn't spend money when they moved into the new stadium. Albeit it was the first year. The first year in the stadium was COVID year, but the next year, 2021, they still didn't spend money, and they made as much money as they can. Then they started figuring out, we can spend money now. The Rays, I think they're going to do the same thing. They're going to cut payroll over the next few years, completely cut, won't spend money, bring in young guys who have no business being in the big leagues for at least 2 years. And then when they move into their new stadium down the road, they'll find a way to start spending a little bit more money here and there to turn that corner and be the Tampa Bay Rays that we know that they have been over the last decade. I hate saying that because I think it is absolutely crap for the fans that you spend money to go see this team play, and they're selling off and they don't care about winning for a few years. But I think that's the end game of what we're going to see with the Rays over the next few years. They're going to cut payroll. They just say, hey, we're going to make sure that we can value this franchise as much as possible, make the revenue when the first year goes in, and then we'll start figuring out how to spend money from there. But we're going to see a big sell-off, and I think we're going to see Tampa Bay. almost like the early years of Tampa where they were really one of the worst teams in baseball for a good portion of time. I think we're going to see that side of them here pretty soon. I think it's going to start off this year. As you said, you named the names of that's available. You're going to see a sell-off that we've have not seen from a team in quite some time.
Let's wrap up with the NL East. Breaking news for your Atlanta Braves. They pick up Whit Merrifield after the Albies injury. Albies expected to miss, I think it's 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, something around there. What do you make of that move? Just a filler move? Do you see him being a depth piece after Albies comes back from his injury?
Yeah, it's definitely a depth move. Again, Merrifield was struggling for a good bit in Philadelphia. Is not the player that we've seen over the last few years. Braves have been just trying to find bodies right now, and that's the hard part for this season. We bring in Ramon Laureano. We brought in J.P. Martinez. We brought in I'm trying to remember another. There's a couple other guys I can't think off the top of my head. We've tried, but at the same time we're bringing young guys up. Ignacio Alvarez is being called up to get opportunity to be in the big leagues, who's been tearing up in the AAA in Gwinnett for a good portion. But Merrifield coming in is a veteran presence that can be used. He's a utility. I think there's a little bit more confidence in him than versus what you have with Zach Short, who's been up and down in the system of the Braves. That's really what it is. It's not an exciting move. It's not a move that you're going to sit here and go, man, this is a great piece that's going to help the Braves turn it around. This is just a body that if Alvarez is not ready to play in the big leagues right now, you can throw Merrifield over there and say, all right, we have someone who's at least big league experience, big league ready, that can just hold the fort down for the next 8 weeks. And this has just been the tough part of the Braves season. And it's really frustrating, but at the same time, you got to have the next man up. You got to have to be ready to go, and that's what the Braves are trying to do. But for Merrifield, again, it's a body that's going to come in and hopefully just hold the fort down until Albies gets back.
And then we're going to end with the New York Mets and another case of what the hell are we doing? The Mets have gone back and forth, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, and now they are going to be buyers. Apparently, they are looking for pitching help through the trade deadline. Specifically bullpen help, but apparently if they can snag a starter, they might make a move there as well. You can never have enough pitching, or so they say, JG. Do you agree with the Mets being buyers? Do you think they should have stand pat? What do you think what the Mets are doing right now?
I mean, if they're four games back of the Braves right now, which again, the Braves are very vulnerable right now. I think if you're the Mets, that's not a bad idea. If you think that you can get a piece, and there's going to be some bullpen arms available. I don't think Mason Miller is going to be one that they're going to look at to bring in, but we know Miller will be a talked about trade piece leading up to the deadline. I just don't know if that's going to be something that the Mets are looking to. I know the Rangers, there's been rumors of them unloading a couple of their bullpen arms, Dave Robertson being one, Kirby Yates being another one. So there's going to be a lot of action on the arms that are available in the bullpen particularly. I think that the Mets could look at and try to bring one or two in for sure, maybe a starter. And at this point, I say, why not? If you're the Mets at this point, you're only 4 games back of the Braves, who are the top of the wild card, and as vulnerable as they are right now, go for it. I think this is the right time to do it. I think it'd be the wrong message if you decide to hold pat or even sell a little bit right now while you're in the 3rd wild card spot. That sends a bad message to the fans that you have no plan, and we've been saying that for a while. So if they do make the move to buy, and they can improve themselves to be able to catch the Braves at the top of the wild card, I think that's the right idea to do so. Don't sit back and wait for things to happen. Make it happen. So I'm intrigued to see if that's the decision they do make, and they're able to find a way to get a couple arms, and if they do, that they can make a very dangerous run. They have potential to do it. They have good pieces that have been inconsistent over the last few years, but they're playing well at the moment. So if you're the Mets, try to make that run and at least show your fan base we're not sitting back and waiting. That we thought where we were last year, we were going to be a 3 to 5 year rebuild. We misjudged that, and we are actually still competitive in this division and still competitive for a wild card, that if we make moves in the offseason too, we can then be part of the conversation with the Braves and Phillies in 2025 for the division. So don't sit back and wait. Make things happen going forward.
It's the Mets. They'll figure out a way to screw it up.
Oh, I hope the Mets met, and we can continue laughing at them.
JG, pleasure having you on this morning in the wilderness. We love it.
Appreciate you, JG.
We'll see you tomorrow. All right.
Sounds good, guys.
Mo, always a pleasure having
Always.
JG here on the show with us. Let's talk about a couple of things. We got some NFL over-under stuff coming up. But before we get to that, Mo, I want to touch on two things. Number one, Team WNBA beat Team USA during the WNBA All-Star Weekend. I get it, Mo. It was an expedition. I get it, right? I hear what everyone's saying. Stop it. It's not that big of a deal. But, Mo, part of me can't help but to look at that and just be like, ain't that something?
Well, it also adds to the chatter, and you know this, that certain people should be part of Team USA, right? It adds to that. It doesn't make that go away at all. And I find that interesting. And it's funny because as I'm watching the game and I'm watching the game with my wife, I did what you just did as it was playing out. I was going,
Isn't that something?
Interesting. Because when they lost, of course, it's just an exhibition.
Right.
The implication is, well, they didn't really play their hardest or something to that degree. I thought they were playing hard. I just thought they got outplayed. I'm not here in any way to say that I've lost any confidence in Team USA. None at all. None at all. But I do think it makes those voices that weren't certain players to be part of Team USA, it gives them more credence. And I don't think those voices are going to go away.
I thought it was interesting. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with Team USA. Again, you know, you could easily look at it and be like, we're so good that our B team is also like, you know, you can put that spin on it. Like,
sure,
we're great. Our B team is great. Right. We're all just great.
We're just great. I like that better. We're just great.
That's great. Mo, news coming out of Golden State Warrior land. Apparently, the Warriors value pods more than they value Kuminga, to the point where if one of them needs to go to bring in a piece, it might be Kuminga who goes over pods. Interesting, I thought. What is your take?
It's a very interesting take, but it also tells me this. If one of them were to go, this is the way I see it. There's no question Kuminga has a higher ceiling. He's a naturally gifted player. But I think that if you're trying to win, if you're trying to formulate a team and make one more run on the back end of Steph Curry's career, Pods is the more solid player. Pods is going to be around for 10, 12 years. Kuminga can bring back a bigger haul. If you are looking, and the rumors are the Warriors are trying to bring in or make a trade for Lauri Markkanen, you're going to have a big piece that's going to draw Utah in their interest. Kuminga would be that guy because I think Kuminga is still 20, 21 years old with all his upside. So I certainly understand. And look, Pods, what you have to remember is he's also a two-way player. He's a terrific defender, super high basketball IQ. I think Kuminga's in play because I think the Warriors are trying to bring in another star.
If they are able to pull off that deal with Utah and Kuminga has to be a part of it, it would probably be Kuminga. Like right now, I think Moody is the center of that trade idea with a bunch of picks. But let's say it's Kuminga, Moody, and some draft compensation, and they make the deal happen. Where does that even put Golden State in the West?
So right now, I think they're not even a playoff team, right? Like, or if everything goes right, they're a play-in team. I think if you can pull off the trade for Markkanen, they're a playoff team. I still don't think they're a title contender, but I think they're a playoff team. So if you're looking at them being relevant in the picture, it would make them relevant again. It would put them maybe a 6 seed. So I think they would be a legit playoff contender. They're still not. I still don't think I think they're on the outside when you're talking about the very top teams in the West.
All right, Mo, let's jump to the NFL for the rest of the show. We have the not really early, training camp is here. first preseason game is, what's today's date, Mo? It's about a week away, week and a half away. August 1st, week 1 of the NFL preseason. We got our over-unders. We're going to go through every single team, and we are going to hit where Vegas says they are, and we're going to go over or under on the wins for each team. Mo, let's fire it up. We're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, they got some splash on the offensive side of the football. We're looking at a quarterback that should be healthy and back into his previous form in Kyler Murray. 6.5 wins is where they are currently sitting. Mo, do you like the over or the under for Arizona?
Wow. You know what? I like the over. I like the over. I think that, and it's not a huge over. I think they're a 7, maybe 8 win team.
I just think when you have, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be special. I think he is going to be special. I think Kyler is going to have a good season. I'm not really confident in what they have on the defensive side of the ball, but this is an offensive-driven league.
Exactly.
And when you have playmakers, legitimate X-factor playmakers on the offensive side, I think they're going to win a couple games this season where you're like, they probably shouldn't have won that game. Like if the defense just tackled Kyler or the defense just was able to tackle Harrison, they wouldn't have won. And I think they're going to get a couple of those. I think they're going to be a 7 or an 8 win team.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the over as well. The Atlanta Falcons, 9.5 wins.
This is an interesting one because we just did Arizona. I think Atlanta has more overall talent than Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to go with the theme, and it's the right theme, that this is an offensive-driven league, Kirk Cousins, he doesn't have the pop that Kyler Murray have, but he's a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. And he has more weapons to work with. So I think Atlanta is a 9-win team. I guess I have to go with the over. I have to go with the over, even though I have the same concerns about their defense, but I think their defense has less holes in it than Arizona's defense.
Now, they do get 4 of their first 5 games at home. Granted, those games include the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bucks, and the Saints. So they got some division games in there, and they have some really good teams in there as well. But they survived that home stretch where they're getting good teams. I mean, on paper, if Cousins is healthy, and I don't care about the playoffs, take that out of there.
Right.
We know what a healthy Cousins is during the regular season, and now he's got all those playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You would have to imagine this is a 10 or 11 win team.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go the over. I'm going to roll with you.
They're going to be one of the better. I think they're going to be one of the better offenses in the football this year.
Baltimore Ravens, 10.5 wins.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I mean, look, we're not talking about the playoffs. We're just talking about in the regular season. Yeah, they're gonna be that. This is a team that's one of the elite defenses in football, and whether you're in love with Lamar Jackson or not, it's a potent offense. They find a way to move the football. They just don't win playoff games.
Remember, there was something ridiculous like 8-0, 9-1, or some gaudy stat against like teams with a winning record last season.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that changing this season. They're going to be a 12 or a 13 win team easily.
Agreed.
I believe. Buffalo Bills, 10.5 wins.
This is the interesting one, only because of all that they lost. And I have this huge question mark on their offense, especially at the wide receiver position. Look, I know I actually think that what they're going to do is run the football more, and they have a terrific running back, so I can see him giving you a 1,300-yard season. I'm gonna go the over, only because this might be one of those seasons where Josh Allen, I guess they self-check him and he's more controlled, right? When you don't have that number one receiver that's constantly going like, man, I was open. Like, you're open on every play. I get it. I think he can spread the ball around more. I think they can dink and dunk and rely more on their running game. So I'm going to go over.
I'm going to go under. I think they lost too much on defense. They lost a lot of big names on defense that they did not replace. On top of that, you have the Josh Allen situation where he doesn't have a quality wide receiver group. On top of that, you have the history that is the roller coaster ride that is Josh Allen. And I'm looking at the division, and if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy all season and Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy all season, I'm not saying either of them are better than Josh Allen if you just put them next to each other and you rank them apples to apples. But I'm looking at the teams as a whole, and I'm thinking to myself, man, you're going to have probably the most motivated Aaron Rodgers maybe has ever been in his career, if he can stay healthy, to get to the playoffs with the Jets, to get the Jets to a Super Bowl. And he has talent and skill around him. Oh, and by the way, all Tua's done the past 2 years is lead the number one offense in the league when he's healthy, statistically. So, no big deal over there. And then you got Josh Allen. And I get it. I get the narrative that, well, he's going to be freer, Chris. Like, he's not going to have Diggs holding him down. You're right. He's not going to have Diggs holding him down. But he's also not going to have that person where he's like, if I just get the ball near him, he's going to catch it. So I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm going to go under. I think they're like a 9-win team.
That's fair. It's fair. I say that because I'm always hesitant. I'm looking at the Jets and if Aaron Rodgers is driven, and I'm like, right, but we've never seen 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers play football.
True. Coming back from
an Achilles. We've never seen that. And the same way people used to talk about Tua, I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers. Like now, I'm like, can Aaron Rodgers survive a hit? Because he's going to get hit.
He's going to get hit.
And the first time he gets hit, or the couple times, can he survive getting hit? So, yeah, if all things are perfect, then I get it. But the NFL rarely plays out in a perfect form.
Carolina Panthers, 5.5 wins. That's generous.
I wouldn't go that high. I'm going to go under.
Isn't that generous?
Yeah.
5.5 wins?
I'm not doing that.
They're a 3-win team.
I'm not
5.5 wins.
Right. And you know that everybody that has them on the schedule is like, we're not losing to them.
Right. That's a 3-win team. 5.5. That's an under all day. Chicago Bears right in the middle, 8.5 wins.
I have them there too. And they might go over. I'm tempted. Because of all the talent. The problem with all the talent is it all keys around if Caleb Williams is ready right now. Like they're projected he's going to do what CJ Stroud did in his first year. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot. Look, if he's that, it's over easy. The question is, I don't know that. And because I don't know that, I'm going to take under. I don't know that.
I'm going to go under too. I think they're a 7 or 8 win team. I don't know. Like, I know the defense should be okay. It's just, I feel like it's a lot. I feel like he's got so much pressure on him. Correct. And he's supposed to be so great. And who is the last quarterback that we've seen come out with all that pressure and they've actually delivered year one?
Andrew Luck.
Because no one expected CJ Stroud to be this good his first year. So he didn't have the pressure on him to perform the way he did. And we've had other quarterbacks in the past that have pleasantly surprised us that we thought they were going to be good year one and they played great year one. But I think Luck is the last one where they're like, this is the guy. And then he came out and he was the guy.
Right.
I just don't know if he can do that year one. So I'm going to go under. Cincinnati Bengals, 10.5 wins.
As a football fan, and I'm not a Bengals fan, but as a football fan, I hope this is right because I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. And I feel like, Chris, that even though they have different throwing styles, I feel like Joe Burrow might be on track to have a career similar to Kurt Warner's.
Ooh, okay.
Where he won't play 17 or 18 years, but the time that he does play, he's going to be impactful. He's going to win a Super Bowl or two. So I'm going to go, even though they have all the questions on defense, and we always concerned about their offensive line, a healthy Joe Burrow, I think, keeps you in the equation. The only problem I have is that division, Chris, it's a brutal division. That is a brutal division. But I preface that to say, if it's a quarterback-driven league, I can make the case that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in that division. And And because of that, I'm going to go outside the box and I'm going to say over.
I'm going over too, and you just upset a bunch of fans in Baltimore.
I know.
Saying that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in his division, Mo. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, 8.5 wins. I do not like the Cleveland Browns. I just don't like Deshaun Watson. I think you're going to get what you've got the past 2 years from Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying he's going to get hurt. I think he's just going to be a middle-of-the-road quarterback, and I think that Cleveland needs a good to a great quarterback if they're going to get where they want to get to. Plus, you have the Ravens and the Bengals in the top half of that division. I think they're going to lose all 4 of those games to the Ravens and the Bengals. So I'm going to go under.
I think so much for them, if they're going to have a great season, is dependent on, is Nick Chubb going to be 100% coming back from that injury? If he can be Nick Chubb prior to the injury, I think this is a 10-win team because of Nick Chubb, not because of look, Deshaun Watson's job. It's funny to be saying this for the guy that has a contract that he has. I think he's a game manager. I do. The way people have killed Russell Wilson the last couple of years, he's been better than Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. He's been better than him. I'm with you, though. Big picture, I don't think Chubb comes back from that this year. One usually is the year where he just gets his feet wet when you have that injury. He'll be pretty good, but I don't think he'll be top 3 running back, Nick Chubb. And I think that defense is going to have too much pressure on it because that offense is going to go 3 and out a lot because of the inconsistency at QB. So I think I'm going to go under as well.
Dallas Cowboys, 10.5 wins. Jeez.
Well, so they've always had balance, but they didn't have balance last year. To be fair, though,
they still won 12 games, though.
Right. To be fair, they won 12 games. And I think Dallas is like a lot of teams or a lot of players in different leagues, they're built for the regular season. I think they're going to be an 11-win team, and I think they're going to get in the playoffs, and they're going to lose in the playoffs, and we're going to have the same conversation we have every year with them. And we're going to wonder what Dak Prescott's future is. I think Dak Prescott is going to have as good a year as he had last year, and I think their season, they're going to be an 11-win team, so I'm going to go over.
I'm also going to go over Denver Broncos, 5.5 wins.
I was going to say that's generous, but I think that's right. I don't think I can't go under, so I'm going to go over because I think 5 or 6 wins is about what they are because Sean Payton is literally gambling on his own credibility to be a quarterback whisperer and go, I can make these guys much better than Russell Wilson. He thinks they're going to be a 9 or 10-win team. He's living in fantasy world. That's not going to happen. I think 5 or 6 wins is right what they are.
Keep in mind, Sean Payton won 9 games in a season where Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, and Ian Book all started at least 1 game for him in New Orleans. And this year, he rolls out the trifecta, if you will, of Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, and our guy, Zachary Wilson.
Yeah, that's an interesting trifecta. Look, if you're a Broncos fan, you hope Bo Nix, even though he's raw, he can be what they hope he can be. Look, I think a lot of Broncos fans, if you've seen any tape on Bo Nix, they're going, maybe he can be, and this is going way out there, the next John Elway. He's kind of got that thing about him. I don't know if he has Elway's arm strength, but we'll see. We'll see just how good a quarterback whisperer Sean Payton is.
Detroit Lions, 10.5 wins.
Oh yeah, I'm going over. This team is loaded, and I think it's the scariest team in the NFC. Over easy.
Green Bay Packers, 9.5 wins.
All right, so you can kill me, and I know a lot of people are going to kill me. I'm going under. I think last year was – I'm not saying Jordan Love will not be a good quarterback, but I thought last year they were kind of like cardiac kids, and they won a lot of games they shouldn't have won. I'm going under. I think that it was a one-off. I think they take a step back, and they just missed the playoffs.
I'm also going under. I think they win 9 games. I'm not on the Jordan Love train. I think he has to do it for an entire season. And by do it, I mean actually be a consistent quarterback, because people keep forgetting he wasn't a consistent quarterback last season. It's not like we're talking about CJ Stroud, who had a great season. And we're just saying, can he have a great season again?
Right.
And if he can, you're a top 10 quarterback, CJ Stroud. Love didn't have a great season. He had great moments, and his team got a big playoff win. I don't know. I don't understand the Jordan Love stuff, Mo. It boggles my mind. He isn't that great. He's good. He's not great.
No, I'm with you. It's funny how they quick to elevate Jordan Love, but we're still going, I don't know how good Dak Prescott is.
Right. She's 12 wins 3 years in a row.
Right.
That guy.
It's a funny thing how they do that. I'm with you. I'm not there. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, but they're elevating him like he's already great, and I don't see that.
Houston Texans 9.5 wins.
High expectations, but I'm also looking at the division.
That's the key.
Yeah, I'm looking at the division, and that's why I'm going to go over. I think the division, it's wide open. Look, if Stroud can be close to what he was last year, because again, there's an adjustment, and then you have to see a large sample size, and people adjust to rookie quarterbacks. But let's say he can be close to what he was and take advantage, obviously, of the additional weapons they added on both sides of the football. I think looking at the competition in that division, looking at the talent on both sides, this is still, to me, I think is their division to lose. So I'm going to go over.
The Indianapolis Colts are at 8.5 wins. It's basically Anthony Richardson's rookie season again.
It is.
Because I
100%.
think he started, 4 games last season? 5 games last season?
Right.
So he's got 8.5 wins. I don't know. What are they? What is Anthony Richardson?
Because we don't know what he is. Right. We're doing his rookie year this year. And I from what I saw, and I saw the games he played, he was raw, but he was flawed. And you could tell he could not read defenses. And I just think that a lot is going to be put on Jonathan Taylor's shoulders. And that so a lot will be dependent upon their defense and their offensive line. I think they are an 7 or 8 win team.
I will say this. If Richardson goes down, do you know who their backup is?
Well, I know who it was, and he's gone. So who is the backup?
Joe Flacco.
Oh, well, you know what? I didn't know Joe was there.
Different story now, Mo.
I didn't know Joe was there. Here's the weird thing. The 40-year-old guy comes in, and the playbook opens up. It does. Yep. Flacco will push the ball down the field. Now, there's a backhanded side to Joe Flacco. He will move the football, but he will throw a couple of picks.
Jacksonville Jaguars, 8.5 wins. A little low, personally, for me. I thought they'd be at 9.5 or 10.5. I'm going to go over just because if they don't win 9 games,
something's wrong.
Right? They're going to look at that division.
Right.
They're going to win 9 games.
Yeah. I know I favored the Texans to win the division, but I think it's back and forth between them and the Jags. And barring major injuries, Jacksonville is going to win 9 games. And if they don't win 9 games, then Sunshine's not that guy. They keep saying he's that guy, but you can't win 9 games in that particular division. You're not that guy.
Kansas City Chiefs, 11.5 wins. I would hammer the over here. That division is horrible. The Broncos are bad. The Chargers are going to be bad.
They are.
The Raiders are bad. Like, they're going to go 6-0 in division, Mo.
They're going to do what the Patriots used to do with Brady in their heyday, where they basically sewed up the number 1 seed by dominating their division every year. This is going to be a year where the Chiefs, they're going to sweep the division, win obviously a few games outside the division. I am definitely going over on the Chiefs. They just actually added some weapons to Mahomes where he didn't have a lot of weapons. They now have, if you go by what they say in the combine, the fastest guy in the NFL. And I've watched some of their training camp. The kid can get deep. He's got that over-the-top speed that opens up your defense. You give Mahomes that kind of weapon to go along with what Kelsey can do and some of the other holdovers, their offense is gonna almost balance out what their dominant defense does.
Las Vegas Raiders 6.5 wins. You look at it and you go, isn't that kind of high? But then you remember they play the Broncos twice.
Right.
They play the Chargers twice. That could be 4 wins right there. And you don't know. They could beat up on each other. One of them could win all 4 games. Like, they're all bad. So who knows?
The way I look at it is I'm going to go under on the Broncos only because I'm a big Harbaugh fan. Look, they're not going to be great, but I think they'll be better than the Raiders and the Broncos.
So I'm saying much.
It is not. It's a low bar. It's a low bar, folks. But I'm going to say they've got the better coach, and I think they got the better quarterback. Married the quarterback to the coach. I think the Chargers are going to be better than both the Raiders and the Broncos.
Well, Vegas agrees because the Chargers are sitting at 8.5 wins.
I said they would be better. That's a lot better. I don't know about that. I'm going to go under. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think the only team in that division with a winning record is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Agreed.
Next up is the Los Angeles Rams, 8.5 wins. I am hammering the over.
I'm going over
day long.
I'm going over.
The disrespect of Las Vegas.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson. That's primarily because of you after last year, because I was like, well, Stafford's down. Cooper Kupp's been out. They basically. It was the last year of Aaron Donald, but what they did really well, and I know you know this, they drafted really well on the defensive side of football. They did. And those kids got their feet wet, and they played well in the second half of the season. And I just think if that offensive line can protect Matthew Stafford, this is one of the scariest teams in the NFC that nobody will talk about, but I'm going way over on that.
And you got Stafford, you got Puka Nacua, you still have Cooper Kupp over there. Let's not forget their stud running back from last year, Kyren Williams. I think he was 2nd or 3rd in the league in rushing last year. Like, this is a loaded offense. I know they lost Aaron Donald, and I know that some people are hyping that up. I get it. But they drafted well on defense. They're not gonna go from a good defense to a horrible defense just because Donald's gone. They're going to lose a little bit on the defensive side. Obviously, he's the best defensive player in the league.
No doubt.
But they're not going to be a turnstile on defense.
No, I agree. I think they're going to be a solid defense. Look, you're not going to have that one dominant player where everybody has the double team, but I think they're going to be a good defense. And remember, when Stafford's upright, they have a top offense. You know what I mean? Defenses play different. And you know this when you play with a lead, right? When you know that your offense is not going to go 3 and out. When you know when your offense is going to put points on the board. Matthew Stafford and that offense is going to put points on the board. This is still going to be a really good defense. Next to the Detroit Lions, and I'm thinking about this strictly as a fan of the Niners, the scariest team to me when I'm looking at the Niners outside of the Eagles is in their division. It's the Rams because Matthew Stafford is the best quarterback in that division. It's not close. And I love everything Brock's done, but Matthew Stafford is a terrific quarterback.
The Miami Dolphins, 9.5 wins.
I'm going over. They will be either the number 1 or they'll be top 3 in offense again. And I think that their running backs getting healthy again will bring another balance and another element to that offense. So I think what you're looking at with the Dolphins is, will the defense be able to keep up with the offense? Because I already know what you're going to get from the offense. They're going to put up points. They're going to put up numbers. The defense just has to be solid, and their playmakers have to step up.
When Odell Beckham Jr. is your slot guy, you're doing all right. You're doing all right for yourself.
Right. Well, think about that for a minute. He's the slot guy. Odell Beckham Jr. has become your chain mover. I love it.
I love it. He's the over the middle guy. I am here for that all day. All day. I'm taking the over. Last one we have for today, the Minnesota Vikings, 6.5 wins, Mo.
I think that's generous.
That's about,
but it's about right. So I can't go over. I think they're right. I think they are like a 6-win team.
Yeah, like a 6-win team. So we'll both go under there. 5-6 wins. Yeah. JJ McCarthy just signed a nice deal yesterday, though. It's like 4 years, 21 point something, all guaranteed. fully guaranteed rookie deal. Good for the young man,
Nice.
Mo. All right, well, take us to an end on a Monday.
Appreciate you guys for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. We're going to finish our NFL over-unders. JG is coming back to talk more Major League Baseball trade deadline. We'll have some WNBA and some NBA stuff. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show.